it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Dish podcast here at the Iowa State Daily. I'll be your host, Brett Schwellmeyer, the sports editor, and I'll have my co-hosts introduce themselves.
What's up, guys? Assistant sports editor Pavel Markovic back with you with another pod.
Hi, it's Katie Schaefer, sports reporter.
And I'm Ford Griffith, sports reporter.
Well, we had some pretty important basketball games this past week. Both the men's and women's team had 2 games. We'll start on the men's side. Huge game, top 10 matchup. Number 6 Iowa State takes down number 5 Marquette at home, 81-70. This was a pretty convincing win, I thought, for the Cyclones. Marquette's a very good team. Obviously, Iowa State is too. Coming into it, I thought that the team with the home court advantage, that being Iowa State, would get the upper hand in this one. That's how it played out. If it was in Marquette, I feel like Marquette might have taken this one. But Iowa State all around just played a very solid, good, clean basketball game. Bit of a shaky start to the second half, but they really righted it right at the end.
Yeah, this is like the perfect matchup for this Iowa State team. Obviously, coming off the Maui Invitational, wanted to carry on that momentum after finishing with the 5th place finish after beating Dayton, Colorado. And they did just that by taking down a good Marquette team, which found funny how they were ranked above us entering this matchup, but it didn't matter in the end because now they are number 3 in the country, tied for the highest in program history. But yeah, like you said, Iowa State jumped out right away, got in front of Marquette. And I know it was a little bit of a scare, like you said, in that second half, but they were able to pull away, unlike that Auburn game where they fell in the last seconds.
Yeah, this was another masterclass, I would say, from Keyshawn Gilbert. Plays 35 minutes, 7 for 15 shooting, went perfect from the free throw line, 8 for 8. He was everywhere he needed to be. He, again, kind of made up for Tamin Lipsey, who, again, struggled on the offensive end, ended up with just 1 point. I saw him celebrate that free throw he made right at the end. But Tamin was good on other facets of the game. He was still getting assists. He was making defensive plays, doing what Tamin does aside from score. So that dynamic that they have, I think, still works. Of Keyshawn does the scoring, Tamin does the defensive, spreads the ball around. But Keyshawn kind of stole the show in a different way other than the points.
Of course, yeah. Talking about Keyshawn, got hit with that elbow. He seems like the kind of guy who always tries to drive and force contact against other players. But Unfortunately, this one, I think the Marquette player threw an elbow at him, popped something in his nose, and started gushing out blood, had to go in the locker room. And, the number 51 was born.
Yeah.
Keyshawn Gilbert had to come out to New Jersey because obviously that one was all bloody and didn't want to have to come back out. And, still – even though he didn't, I don't think he scored a lot in terms of when he did come back out, but he still was able to help facilitate this win just because of the fact that, he's that kind of player. He's got that dog in him.
He does. First half, Keyshawn had 18 points. Second half, only 6. That elbow happened pretty much at the end of the game. I mean, he only missed a couple minutes of playing time. It didn't look intentional to me. It kind of looked like the Marquette player just, was swiping down. Keyshawn was probably just defending too close. But that's what TJ's defense does. They defend. They're up in your face, and it works. They force turnovers. They're able to get a handful of them, around a dozen. Marquette was too, so it was a very even game in that sort of thing. But yeah, when Keyshawn came back out on the court, that was probably the loudest it was all night. I mean, everybody erupted in the stands. And that was funny, though, just seeing him out there in the number 51, unnamed jersey, just proving that he has what it takes. He's not going to let a little cut determine if he's going to play or not.
No, yeah, like I said, he's got that dog in him. He's kind of just going to go out there and give his best for this team, and he clearly showed on was it Wednesday, I think this Marquette game was. So. Yeah, and I loved the Hilton crowd. Obviously the first real game that the Hilton crowd packed the house because this is a bigger opponent, not like these non-conference teams that Iowa State has been able to sweep through easily. But it was just a great day all around, and Keyshawn brought it.
Yeah, I was pleased with the crowd. I really was. Sold out, wide out game. It was a lot of fun. It was loud through the whole thing. Nate Heisey's 3 that he hit, that was another loud moment. When Keyshawn not only did when he came back onto the court after his injury, when he entered the game again, that was another really loud moment too. So the crowd was definitely in it. The 14-0 run that they had at the end of the game definitely helped bring the thing home. Overall just a fantastic game, atmosphere, and just a big resume boosting win.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I know I wanted to kind of go back to what you talked about earlier with Tamin Lipsey. Obviously you'd like to see him score a little bit more, just find his offensive stroke a little bit. But, he's still doing, what you said, doing everything all around the ball. Defensively, obviously, he's, potent. He's obviously doing the best there. And then, obviously, still facilitating on offense. But, like to see him score a little bit more. But then talking about, the 1-2 punch of Deshaun Big Dog Jackson and Joshua Jefferson. They're unbelievable front court. I know we keep talking about them, how they've been unbelievable acquisitions, and they just showed it against Marquette. Joshua Jefferson, double-double, 15 and 12, and Deshaun still added 11 points, so, and 7 boards, so, yeah.
Yeah, Joshua Jefferson had a really good shooting night, too, 7 for 10.
Mm-hmm.
He misses 1 3, but, what are you going to do? You can't make them all. Deshaun Jackson, again, proving that he's a really good scorer, too, 4 for 5 shooting. His ability to grab rebounds as well, I think, is something that Iowa State was kind of missing at the center position last year. I like that Jackson's, again, been able to kind of step into that role. He was close to a double-double, too. He just needed 3 more rebounds. Joshua Jefferson, like you said, did get another double-double, and that's something that I thought he could do, again, is get more double-doubles, and he's almost – I think he's at, 3 or 4 this year already?
Yeah, 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah,
well, sure.
So, and he had 4 last year at St. Mary's, so he's definitely going to, blow past that number this year, and we're just getting started. It's still early on in this season. He's going to get there for sure.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about the Jackson State game, which we will kind of touch on a little bit, but he did, first consecutive games with a double-double at least, so, I was able to get that. I know Jackson State wasn't obviously the greatest team, winless team still is, but Joshua Jefferson's ability, he can literally do everything, and that's what surprised me about his size. And too, it's just kind of being a big forward. You think he's kind of been more post guy type of thing, but no, he can play really good defense. He looks kind of like a smaller forward, or even kind of like a shooting guard out there.
Yeah, he's definitely the Swiss Army knife of the team. That's for sure. He
100%.
can do it all. He got a couple assists too. He had a steal. Very solid player. I think that of the off-season portal acquisitions, he might have been the best one.
100% has to be, no question. I know obviously we keep talking about Deshaun Jackson. He's also a good acquisition,
very
but
good
you
player,
can't really top Joshua Jefferson getting him in the portal. He could just be in general the whole nation's best portal get, just because of what he's able to do on each side of the ball. What he's able to do at the sides. It's just incredible.
Could be a bold statement, but I'd believe it. Iowa State's a top 3 team now.
Yeah.
Marquette game, huge win. Move them up in the rankings. Another dominating win after that, though. Sunday, they take down Jackson State 100-58. They finally got the 100 mark. It took them, It was nearly a year since the last time they did that. Yeah. Almost a year to the date, exactly. This one was just flat-out domination. Jackson State just looked sluggish all game. Iowa State had a ton of scores, nearly around that 20-point margin. Again, just a solid performance. They just did what they had to do.
Yeah, this is I feel one of the most enthralling wins I could see from this team. It's just so soothing to see them beat down on a team that has no wins this season, and
it's sad.
I don't know. I don't know what you gotta say. But obviously talking about Jackson State, they still had 2 scores over 15 points, which it's whatever. It didn't matter. But you see, one of the things that caught my eye was forcing 24 turnovers. Right. One of the guys had 8 turnovers and fouled out without shooting a shot and still played 19 minutes as a starter. I don't know how that's even possible, but it happened. But, everything just seemed to work. Everything clicked. I know they had a little bit of bumps in terms of, keeping shooting consistent throughout this game. I know they reached 100 points, but still, they still got it done, obviously, in the biggest way possible.
Yeah, they shot over 50%, 50.7 from the field. Free throws are really good. Again, Deshaun Jackson proving he can make free throws. He was the leading free throw shooter in this game, 9 for 11. That's crazy that he's able to do that, and he was perfect shooting, 4 for 4. He was actually still third in scoring, though. He scored 17 behind Milan Momcilovic, who had 18, 6 for 10 shooting. And leading scorer, Curtis Jones, 50% from the field and from 3.
Yeah, once again off the bench, it seemed like kind of a race of who's going to get the first. And I was talking about that with you. It's kind of Keyshawn got 16, Milan got 18, Deshaun 17, and Curtis obviously got there with 19. It's kind of like a fight to the top just to see who could do it. And obviously, Curtis came out on top of this 1 point over. And, just talking about Deshaun Jackson, it was so fun to watch him. I could see his energy. I know he got a couple and ones in there, and he got the crowd going. He got the other players going. It was just amazing to see. His energy that he brings to the team is just unbelievable.
Yeah. Another quick stat that kind of caught my eye too was Nate Heisey, 6 steals.
Oh yeah.
He was acting like Taman out there.
Yeah, he's swiper no swiping out there. He's taking away the steals, and I think that's the highest. That's a new career high for him, obviously, but then new season high, because I think Taman had 5 or something early this season. But still, nonetheless, Nate Heisey coming off the bench still got 6 points. 2 from free throws and then 2 from just regular shooting, but still was able to do. This is what he's been able to do just all season. Has been a big defensive presence off the bench.
I know that Jackson State's not a good team at all, 0-10 right now, but I think across the nation, this might have been the most convincing win of the entire weekend, day, whatever, just because of all the craziness that kind of happened this week with all the top 10 teams losing. Iowa State, I think, of the top 10 schools this week, had the best outcome they could have hoped for across these 2 games.
Oh, no doubt. Having to be able to have these wins like this, and obviously showed getting up to the number 3 spot. And there's a case, that from the B in that 2 or 1 spot, but obviously they lost to Auburn. Auburn still has that, even though they did lose this past week. And then obviously Tennessee is rolling right now. They're still undefeated, so they wholeheartedly, I think, deserve that number 1 spot. But Iowa State's getting there, and I think they have the abilities to reach that number 1 spot by season's end, and who knows what could happen. It's college basketball.
Yeah, so resume-building win over Marquette, dominating win over Jackson State. We'll move over to the women's side now. They also picked up 2 wins. Guys, what did we see from them this week?
Yeah, in the first game against USC Upstate, a 92-35 win. Pretty similar to that Jackson State win for the men's team. Just complete domination from the start. First half, second half, everything was just complete domination.
Audie walked away with 15 points. She was absolutely phenomenal that game. Addie did struggle the first quarter for sure, but she walked away with a buzzer beater in the third quarter, and it was a great game for her.
Yeah, another player that had a really good game was Kelsey Jones. It was really refreshing to see somebody other than Audie, Addie, and Emily Ryan score at the rate that she did. She was a total hustle player that game. She was all over the floor rebounding, passing the ball. It was really fun to see her play well. And then Katie, we talked about Reagan Wilson early in the year. She's been hurt, but she had a good game. She had 8 points. You want to talk about her?
Yeah, what I really liked about this game was the fact that we were so high in points that we saw a lot of our bench players perform so great. Reagan went 2 for 2 for her 3-pointers, which was amazing. I haven't seen her shoot so well around the arc, so that was really great to see. And then she went 3 for 5 for her field goals, and it was just a great game for her. Same with Lily. She scored her first point of the game. That was really exciting.
Yeah, Lily scoring her first points of the season. The crowd just erupted. It was super fun to see that. I mean, you could tell that she's been struggling, but the lid was finally off the basket for her, made the 3, and it was cool to hear her teammates talk about her after the game also, how she's been working really hard for it, how she deserves it. Really cool to see. Cyclone's also forced 30 turnovers. We'll talk about that a little bit later with Iowa, but how do you think that'll help them in the upcoming games?
I think it'll help them a lot. Their defense has been phenomenal. Emily Ryan has really stuck out to be such a great defensive player. Fenley has talked about wanting her to shoot more, and we definitely saw that in this game with her shooting 6 points, going 2 for 6 for her field goals. She still lacks it a little bit, but she's doing great. But she walked away with a high of 7 steals.
7 steals. Crazy. I mean, the guys just talked about Nate Heisey and how he had 6. Emily Ryan had 7, so the way that she was able to track down that ball, play super well on defense, get in those passing lanes, that's going to be super important, especially against teams like Iowa and UConn. And then on Sunday, they took on Central Michigan, another dominating win, 82-56. What stuck out to you in that one?
What stuck out to me in this game was how good Audie and Addie worked together. Along with Emily Ryan, she's proving again to be such a great aspect for the team. She walked away with 6 steals, 6 assists. She's just being phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, having Audie and Addie both click like they were in that game, 19 points for Audie, 18 for Addie. Those two will need to be in rhythm together heading into Iowa, heading into UConn, if they want to come out with wins or great games in general. And yeah, you mentioned Emily Ryan, 6 steals, having 7 steals, 6 steals. People have talked about Ariana Jackson being the best defensive player, but I mean, after those 2 performances, it's hard not to put Emily Ryan up there and put her in the conversation as well. Back-to-back double-doubles for Audie. I mean, she's one of the best post players in the nation. Fenley's talked about it. What do you think that she's going to do in these upcoming games to come out with wins?
She's been talking about working with her left hand more and doing more offensive skills, so I think that's going to definitely come in handy. A lot of teams are watching her. They're keeping a very big eye on her, and we can tell with the double teaming and the triple teaming going on. So I think she's going to really need to work hard to kind of not so much as impress, but definitely have a different skill set going into these super big games.
For sure. She's talked about how when she gets doubled, she's done a lot better with passing the ball out to the three-point line, getting open shooters the ball, which I think will be super important. I think Elisa also had a really good game. She had 8 points, 7 rebounds against Central Michigan. Consistent rebounding from the bench players will be super helpful because Audie seems to be like the only one, Addie also, who are really consistently getting those rebounds, getting those boards, and keeping possessions alive and not letting the other team get offensive rebounds.
Yeah, especially in the USC game. Crooks was injured and she was out for a little bit, so it was great to see Elisa step in for a little bit. Same with Lily Towley, and we're really going to need that, especially with so many people coming for Audie. You're going to have to mix it up. You're going to have to mix up the strategies.
For sure. And against Central Michigan, although it was a big win, the Cyclones didn't shoot the ball particularly well from beyond the arc. 6 for 25. I mean, it was just an off game. I'm really hoping that Kenzie Hare can have a game where she knocks down like 4 or 5, because Fenley's talked about her ability to do that. Yeah.
Especially with all the open opportunities she's have.
She's taken, I mean, she took 6 threes in this one against Central Michigan. She takes around that number every game, but Fenley's talked about how she's going to have a game where she knocks down 4 or 5, and it just comes out of nowhere. So I'm excited to see that. Hopefully that comes pretty soon, maybe against Iowa.
Me too. I'm especially excited to see Lily Towley perform a little bit more. She's definitely in there. She hasn't so much as impressed me, but she definitely has the skill set. I hope to see more from her.
Yeah, especially since she was out to start the year. She's really been easing back into things. You can tell that she's still getting her footing. But, I mean, she's had some plays where she makes a nice move down low and has a nice layup, but I'm hoping that she can become more consistent and really build that confidence.
Yeah, same with Reagan. Coach has talked about drawing Emily Ryan back a little bit more, so I'm really hoping to see some other players step up a little bit.
For sure. Well, those were 2 really dominating, really fun games to watch. Cyclones, 3-game winning streak heading into Iowa. It should be a fun one.
It should be.
Yeah, I feel like, again, that South Carolina game was probably a big wake-up call for them, losing by 40 points. But now these past 3 games, I know they were kind of lesser competition, but I think the defense has been really impressive. 3 straight games of holding teams under 60 points. How much of a benefit do you think that the defense, the way it's playing right now, is going to be heading into a team like the Iowa Hawkeyes present?
I think, especially against USC Upstate, holding them to 35, 2 points in the second quarter, 5 points in the fourth quarter, having performances like that on the defensive end where they get they had 19 steals, forced 30 turnovers. I mean, building the confidence on the defense, knowing they can defend at a high level, that'll be super important for the Cyclones.
Especially being really strong with their defensive rebounds. It's going to become so handy later on down the road.
So, yeah, another good week for Iowa State men's and women's basketball. 2 wins for each team. Now we'll kind of go through the rest of the non-conference slate. 3 games left for each team. It all starts with the women's game, Cy-Hawk game. Guys, what are we in store for this one? Should be a good one.
Yeah, the Hawkeyes are 8-1. They started the year 8-0. Just lost to Tennessee in a game where they had 30 turnovers. I mean, this is obviously one of the most highly anticipated games of the year. Katie, what are you excited for?
I'm really excited for the fact that Caitlin Clark left this team, and they're still doing great, so that makes me a little bit more nervous. But if they can't handle these in-state rivalry games like they did against UNI, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's not going to be good.
Yeah. Hawkeyes lost Caitlin Clark, but now they have Lucy Olson, a transfer from Villanova who's averaging around 18 points per game. She averaged 23 last year. Coach Fenley talked about how she's one of the most dynamic scorers in the country at point guard. That'll be tough to handle, but it'll be a super fun matchup, top 25 matchup. Hawkeyes started the year unranked, but now they're 21. We're 18, so it'll be super fun. Are there any players for Iowa State that you think will need to have a big game for them to win?
I think Ariana Jackson for sure. She's our top defender. Although we talked about Emily Ryan being a great defender, Ariana Jackson has been put up against those top people, so she's definitely going to take on Iowa's top point person. So I'm a little nervous to see how she's going to go.
Yeah, I think that'll be super important. She's always up for the test, so her against Lucy Olsen, hopefully she can hold her a little bit on the scoring category. But the Hawkeyes still have Addison O'Grady and Hannah Stulke down low. One game that I like to look at is the Hawkeyes game against Drake, where they won by 13 points. Addison O'Grady had 27 points, just like Audie dominated against Drake. So I think O'Grady and Audie battling out down low will be a super fun battle because both of them prove that they can dominate against smaller teams, but how they're going to do against each other.
Right, and Hannah is a great defensive person. She has had 19 turnovers already this season, 48 defensive rebounds, 67 overall. She's going to make me a little bit nervous, but I think we can handle it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the who matches up with who. I think it'll be Ariana on Lucy Olsen, Audie on O'Grady, and then Addie Brown on Stulke. But where Emily Ryan is, I think she could play a really big role like she always does, but whoever she's guarding, she can be a pest a little bit and pressure the ball handler. But it'll be fun to see how the Cyclones perform in Iowa City. That'll be because they didn't perform great against Northern Iowa. We'll see how they do against this hostile crowd.
Yeah, it's gonna be nerve-wracking.
Yeah, Addie Brown had a quote that I liked. She said, "When you love the people you play for, it starts to mean a lot, no matter where you come from." Because she's from Kansas, so she didn't totally understand the weight that the Cy-Hawk rivalry carries, but now she's like all in, and she's like, I mean, she sees how much it means to players from Iowa and the coaches, so she's like, we need to win this game.
Yeah, and it's so good to have that, that drive.
For sure. But the Cyclones take on the Hawkeyes at 8 on Wednesday night. That'll be a super fun one. The crowd's probably going to be sold out. Cyclones have lost the past 2 against the Hawkeyes, so it'll take a lot for them to win this one.
Yep, it will.
And then going to the next one, the Cyclones take on Eastern Illinois. Should be a fairly smooth win for the Cyclones. Eastern Illinois lost by 47 to Kansas State. Is there anybody like kind of low-key for the Cyclones that you want to see step up in a game like this?
I would love to see Reagan more. I know for a fact we're going to win this game. It's going to be easy. Reagan stepping up to the point guard position would be great to see. I think she could totally dominate the game. Same with seeing more of Alyssa and Lily in the center position instead of Audie would be great to see, kind of mixing it up. But yeah.
Yeah, I think Reagan could have a great game in this one. I mean, she's also still getting back into the into things. But 8 points against Central Michigan for her, and I think she could step up and let Emily Ryan sit on the bench for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned earlier, I want Kenzie Hare to have one of those games with 4 or 5 threes. If it doesn't happen against Iowa, I want it to happen here, really build her confidence going into UConn, who will be more of a test.
Yeah, this one I'm really nervous for. We got Paige Beckers starting. We got Ozzy Fudd,
I think.
Yeah. Oh, they're great together. I'm nervous for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen TikToks of those two. Yeah. Those two are best friends, so them playing together so well makes a lot of sense. Paige Becker's a great scorer. She has been for a very long time. But UConn as a team, they already have 3 ranked wins.
Yeah.
They beat number 22 Louisville by 33 points, kind of similar to Iowa State losing to South Carolina by 40. But I'm really excited to see how they do against number 8 Notre Dame coming up. Finally talked about how Cyclones have not shot well in other arenas, so this is going to be a super tough environment, just like Iowa City will be. But that's ultimately what let South Carolina get out of hand is the shooting. So who do you think needs to have a nice shooting night or big scoring game for this one?
Audie, for sure. She's going to be in the paint. She needs to have a great night where she can just make almost all of her jump shots and layups off the glass and everything. She's had a couple nights where she's been great, and don't get me wrong, she's hit so many of her shots. She just needs to have a standout night, so then we can no doubt win.
Yeah, and Sarah Strong is averaging 7.6 rebounds for the Huskies, but she's a freshman, doesn't have a ton of experience. Audie has that experience, and she will have played against South Carolina and Iowa by the time they play UConn.
Yep.
So if she can dominate down low, then maybe the Cyclones can make it interesting.
Mm-hmm. Same with having the duo, Audie and Addie. That's going to be a great one.
Yeah.
That I think will definitely benefit
Those
for having.
Those two have been great. Audie's nearly averaging a nearly averaging a double-double.
Mm-hmm.
Basically 20 points a game. I mean, the way that she's been scoring as of late and really dominating every game, she's shooting 58% from the field, so I'm not worried about her scoring. However, she didn't have the best game against South Carolina.
Yeah.
But I think if she steps up, Addie steps up, this could be a fun one.
Yeah. Fenley mentioned really early on in the season that he wanted to have a night where everybody shot amazingly. And I think this night could be absolutely phenomenal if that happened.
For sure. There have been games where they shoot really well in the first quarter, not so great in the second, shoot well in the third, not so great in the fourth. So if they can have one game from start to finish where they're shooting at a high rate, shooting the ball really well, then this could be one where the Cyclones hopefully keep it within 10, 15. But, I mean, if they have a night where they're shooting over 50% or 45% the whole way, they can make it really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I'm also a little nervous for their defense, though. We don't always have the strongest going in. We foul a lot. So I'm a little nervous to see what the Huskies are going to bring.
Yeah, especially against, I mean, looking back at that South Carolina game, that's the best one to compare, I think. But it's tough because the Cyclones shot so poorly. They haven't shot that poorly in any other game. So, I mean, the way that UConn defends will play a huge role in how they play because South Carolina just dominated defensively.
Yeah, what I like about the women's team scheduling these games, like you already had South Carolina at a neutral site. You're going to have Iowa on the road, and you're going to have UConn at technically a neutral site, but it's basically on the road because it's in Connecticut. The men's team did play Marquette, but that was at home. I just feel like the women's schedule is a lot harder than the men's is, and it's only going to benefit them when it comes time for Big 12 play. Like to play players like Lucy Olson and Paige Beckers right before conference starts, that's only going to make them better. I love that they're doing it like this.
Yeah, playing against scorers like that, I mean, you'll see some of that in the Big 12, but they're playing against the best scorers in the country before conference play comes. So having that experience, seeing what that looks like, I agree, it'll help them a ton come Big 12 play.
It's preparing them for such a tough time.
Yeah. And then we'll go over to the men's side now. Men also play Iowa this week. That game is going to be the day after the women's game. That's going to be, Thursday at 6:30 p.m.?
On FS1.
There we go. So those of you who can't go, but if you can go, I recommend that you do. So a lot of seats available.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you the women's game is going to have more fans there.
Oh, 100%. You know, the women's series is actually more competitive than the men's one, you know, because you know what happened last year at Hilton? They blew them out. And
bloodbath.
I expect about the same for this Iowa State team to go in there. I know technically it's a hostile environment, but, you know, what are we really talking about? I mean, they had to win on a game-winning jump shot against Northwestern, barely lost against Michigan.
Michigan's a solid team, though.
Yeah, Michigan's a solid team, to be fair. And then lost to Utah State was the only other loss, so I don't think anything really scares me about this team from last year to this year. Is nothing too crazy.
Not totally. I mean, when you look at their team, obviously Owen Freeman's going to be the guy to watch out for. Taman's going to have to be on his A game once again. We know that he can be. He's still getting steals. He's probably still the best defensive player for the Cyclones. The Sanford brothers are probably going to be a problem in this one, too. They're each averaging over 10 points per game, both of them being forwards. So Joshua Jefferson, Milan Momcilovic, those guys are going to have to be good defensively in this one as well.
I feel like this game's going to be more focused on the front court defensively because Owen Freeman is a forward. I think he's like 6'10", 6'9", so, you know, probably like Deshaun Jackson's probably going to have to play good defense on Owen Freeman, who does shoot the ball particularly well, you know, 64% from the field, averages 16.8 points a game, and still gets 7 boards. So, you know, he's still going to be somewhat of an issue, I'd say. He's not going to, I don't think he's going to pose, as big of a threat as people think, but, you know, he's probably still going to play decently well. And then, obviously, you know, the Sanford brothers, we've seen them before, you know, Payne obviously being the better one, has been playing a lot more minutes, leads the team in minutes, 31 minutes, and averaging 16.4 points per game. Hasn't shot the ball particularly well, though, with only 38%. So it's really taking a lot of shots, and not really a lot of them are going in. So it's going to be kind of good for Iowa State to kind of force them into shooting unwanted shots. And it seems like that's what Payne Sanford does best. And, seems like Taman Lipsey's going to be guarding Josh Dix, 13.4 points per game, their best guard, hands down. And, it's going to be they got some good scores, I think, but I don't think it should be posing much of a problem, though.
No, obviously I think Iowa State's the better team in this matchup. I don't think it'll be too much of a challenge. Iowa could pose a threat early on. Maybe they throw some weird things at Iowa State, get them a little, frazzled early. But I'm confident that Iowa State can, catch on, get out of a funk if there is one. I do think that Iowa State, again, poses a better front or a better backcourt, but Iowa probably has a better front court or maybe a stronger one, a deeper one.
Yeah.
Because I feel like once you get, it's really just Jackson and Jefferson. Like, I don't fully trust Brant Chatfield yet. He's been okay at times, but not to the point where I really want him in there if the game ends up being on the line in any type of game.
Yeah, you're hoping that Iowa doesn't really their focal point isn't on trying to cause a lot of fouls to the main front court of Jackson and Jefferson, because you don't want to have a guy like Chatfield come in. I mean, he could still make his moment obviously known because he's got the height. He can obviously grab a lot of boards. He's kind of like a growing player on this Iowa State team, coming off the bench. But, yeah, obviously, like you said, you don't want Chatfield to be thrown in there in like a big moment and, like something, God forbid, like, it's actually a close game and, like, you don't want him to try and, like, rely upon him. I know they have been trusting him a little bit more often, but obviously you'd want to have Jackson and Jefferson as much as you can in there while they are able.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for more out of Chatfield too, just because he had 93 blocks last year. I don't even know if he's gotten to like 2 at this point this season. He might have 2, maybe 3, but I don't know. I think a big reliance again is going to be on Jackson and Jefferson. I think Jefferson, again, will have to be the X factor in this game. He's going to have to be. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up playing close to the most minutes in this one. He's going to be out there a lot just because of, again, Freeman, Sanford, and the other Sanford all being forwards. So it's going to be a tough battle for them. Then again, though, Iowa State, the defense is so good. They've been, like, on it recently. The offense, I think, has been really strong, too. We just saw the 100-point performance against Jackson State. Even against Marquette, they were scoring 81. So I feel like this, we call it the Otzel basket burger ball. That's the defense that Iowa State has this time. But, the Hoy ball era, Fred Hoiberg, I feel like that offense is starting to come back. So you kind of have the best of both worlds right now.
Yeah.
That, past era offense, the current era defense, and that's why Iowa State's number 3 in the country right now.
And I know Otzelberger's defense is what won Iowa State the Big 12 championship game in last March in Kansas City. But, yeah, like what you said, that's like what I'm really seeing, especially with that Jackson State game, like seeing that Hoiberg style offense being implemented into this Otzelberger defense, like the best of both worlds. And, it makes you really think that they can really, if they can keep this, sustain this both offensively and defensively, they could make a strong push for the March Madness tournament, like deeper than the Sweet 16, which Otzelberger hasn't proven to gotten past yet. But if they can do it, keep up with this offensive and defensive style of ball, there's no question that they could at least reach the Elite Eight.
Right. And I believe that we just had the Week 6 AP poll come out. Week 6, yeah. And I think it's been like since 2004 or something like that. If you look at, the Week 6 poll of the last like 20 years or something like that, every team that's won the national championship in that year in the Week 6 poll has been in the top 12.
Yeah.
So odds are your national champion's going to be in this week's top 12. Iowa State's there at number 3. And I feel like when you kind of look at every other team that's on there, it really comes down to, in my opinion, Iowa State, Auburn, and maybe Tennessee as the 3 that I'm kind of looking at of these are the teams that can win the national championship.
I mean, they are the top 3 in the country.
Well,
so
yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, like you said, we got to see Auburn firsthand be playing this team in Hawaii. They're a really solid team. Obviously, then Tennessee, haven't really dove too deep into them, but obviously they've warranted enough to be having this 8-0 record and cruising to a...
I feel like they're kind of weak, though. As far as number 1 team goes, they're a little weaker. I don't know if they've really played anyone like of too much significance. Like
they beat Baylor by 15.
Their best game was Baylor, and I think Baylor's frauds. So.
Oh, okay. I mean... Obviously, beating them by 15 is obviously different. It feels a lot closer. I'd say like maybe you got a case right there, but I don't know. I mean, This Tennessee team,
I don't know. I just feel like Baylor and honestly the Big 12 in general might be a little overrated.
they're slipping a little bit. I agree. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Tennessee, they got 4 scores over double-digit points. Obviously, Chaz Lanier, 18.8 points per game. And, yeah, I mean, they're doing what needs to be done to get to this point. So, good for them. And I do think that this perfect record will be broken eventually because, college basketball will never be able to sustain.
They'll have to play Auburn at some point.
Yeah. They have to go to Illinois not too long from, I think, in like a week. So, Fighting Illini got a little bit of ruckus environment, I'd say. So it's kind of a tough game for them. But, they're doing what they need to do, and hopefully they slip up so Iowa State can jump them.
Yeah, but, I mean, back to the Iowa State game real quick. Just go to the game, everybody, please. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that the team's, like, going to need crowd support. No. They can win on the road against Iowa. It's been tough in years past, but this year's team, I think, is different enough that there's not really going to be a big challenge in this one. No. Iowa State should roll in this one. Other 2 games that they're going to finish out the non-conference slate with, they play Omaha. Marquette Sutton is their leading scorer. He's, again, a forward, but then their next 4 leading scorers are all guards. So it's really just going to be locking down the inside. There's going to be a lot of outside shooting in this game, probably. Very perimeter-driven, and that could be a problem for the Cyclones if they can knock down their threes.
Sure, yeah. I mean, these smaller schools try and target the bigger points. Not really like a team that has like a really focused offense. They're more like trying to put as many points as you can on the board, and that could pose a problem with this Omaha team. But then again, it's back at Hill, and last game that the students will be able to go to before the winter break begins. But yeah, I don't think this game should pose a problem. I don't think it'll turn out Jackson State-esque, but it still should be able to get handled pretty easily. And hopefully, whatever happens in Iowa City shouldn't. I mean, obviously, if they win, have it roll on in momentum. But if something worse happens, hopefully it doesn't sting them.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that one. I'm also not too worried about the final game of the season against Morgan State. That one's going to be Omaha game December 15th, Morgan State game a week later, December 22nd. Leading scorer for Morgan State, Winston Tabbs, scores nearly 17 points per game. Their leading rebounder, Daniel, I'm going to butcher this, Akitobi, I think.
Good enough.
That's what it looks like. 6.4 rebounds per game. So those 2 will be the guys to keep an eye out on. But again, I don't see Iowa State. I don't see a world where they lose either of these 2 games.
No, both at home. Both at home, yeah. Right before conference schedule, of course, starts, you want to be able to rack up as many wins as possible before having to start. And I know they do go to Colorado to start off Big 12 conference play, which luckily they already have experience against. So it's kind of a thing where it should be – you'd think it'd be a little bit easier. But then again, Colorado could have – obviously has some tape on Iowa State now, so they can – I think it should be a great game to start off conference play, but, talk about conference play later.
Got to get through these first 3 first. And again, everything's shaping up that Iowa State goes nearly undefeated in that non-conference slate. And, again, to have Auburn be the lone loss out of that on a last-second tip-in when the game could have gone to overtime, that's as good of a loss as you're going to get this season.
Yeah, I mean, they're above us in the AP rankings. They're understandably
both in the top 3.
Yeah, both in the top 3. This isn't like you lost to a team that's, like, not even the AP poll at all. It could have been way worse. So, yeah, I have full confidence in this team to finish out 10-1 for the non-conference slate before Big 12 play kicks in because, it's going to be kind of but I think it's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster ride. I know you talked about the Big 12. It's not really the best in basketball, but it's still the Big 12. I think it's still going to be.
They're still really good.
Yeah.
It's just I think that this year might be a bit of an off year. I think that they're slightly overrated.
Just
a little bit.
Yeah.
Iowa State, though, I think by far has looked like the best Big 12 team so far.
Oh, 100%.
There's a reason they're the top-ranked team of the Big 12 schools.
Yeah. Kansas is obviously, slipped a bit, didn't even look great.
Their Creighton game was bad.
Yeah, that was horrible. And that Duke game even kind of showed it. They barely beat Duke, and that kind of rolled into Creighton and, happened
Arizona's
there.
looked not great either.
Cincinnati's lost 2. So they slipping in the rankings. Houston, obviously, not even as good as they were last year. And then every other team, yeah, they're just there. So
yeah, I came into this year with a lot of confidence in this men's team. They're proving it on the court, and with the fact that the other Big 12 teams have proven that they can struggle at points this season against some better teams and some teams that also have struggled, I wouldn't be shocked if you're looking at back-to-back Big 12 championships with the Iowa State Cyclones.
Nope.
Still a long way to go, though. We still got to get through our 3 non-conference games that remain. Cy-Hawk game going to be on Thursday. We've also got Omaha, Morgan State. Then it's going to be the Big 12 slate of the season. once again, everybody, go to the Cyhawk games if there's tickets available. Do it. Should be a lot of fun.
Of course.
I expect the women's game to have more fans, though. Like, it's going to be just a way better game.
Yeah.
The atmosphere last year was incredible. Like, sold out Hilton Coliseum.
Mainly
Crowd was
because
into it.
Caitlin Clark, but
Still.
the fans still show up for women's basketball in the state of Iowa. So.
The game was fun, though. I mean, Iowa State kept it competitive, lost only by 8.
I mean, they only gave up 2. I think it was her, Caitlin Clark and Kate Martin. Like, people reached double-digit points, and like everyone else struggled to try and shoot the ball against Iowa State. So, yeah, this game, I think it should be obviously a higher scoring than the last one.
Yeah. Final thoughts of these 3 final games. What record do you think Iowa State comes out of it with?
I think the Cyclones will win 2 of the last 3 games.
I take it you're taking them to lose against UConn.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they'll rise to the occasion against Iowa. So it'll be fun.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
All right.
More confident than me. I have them 1 and 2. The Iowa game, I don't know, just because it's on the road.
It's tough.
It's tough.
Yep.
Especially when the Cyclones have lost 8 of the last 10. And it's been heavily home dominated, but, I mean, the Hawkeyes have been dominant. So
they've looked
we'll
really
see.
good. Their Drake win, I thought, was really impressive.
I think so, too. But hopefully they can turn it over like they did against Tennessee. So.
Yeah. Luckily, they should be over 500. It's just really racing to see if they can get to 10 wins, which is going to be really tough with having Iowa and UConn on the road. So
for sure.
I know another team that made it close to get to 10 wins. The football team.
We don't talk about them right now.
Men's-wise, I think they go 3-0.
Yeah,
finish out non-conference slate. It's an exciting time in Iowa State basketball, men's and women's. Should be a good, final run before we break off for the conference slate of the season. Once again, we thank you guys so much for watching another episode of the Daily Dish. We will talk to you guys sometime either over the break or something. We'll see. Until then, we've got 3 games to watch out for the men's and women's side. We'll let you know how those go, and we'll preview whatever's next. See you guys next time.